Thanks so much for sharing your garden with us. And now we're going to be talking about lawn gone. That's right, getting rid of lawns, or at least reducing their space and scale in our gardens. And Pam Penick, our friend here from Austin, Texas, is joining us for this conversation. She has written a book called Lawn Gone, and filled with good ideas about alternatives to lawn spaces. So welcome to Central Texas Gardener.
Thanks, Tom. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to visit with you. And tell me about why you got inspired to write this book.
Well, as you know, I do garden design here in Austin, and it seems like all of my clients these days, the first request is they want to get rid of their lawn. The drought's taking a toll. They don't want to keep up with the watering. So, the first question is, what can we do instead? We're going to rip it out. What can we do? And so I set out to just explain to people, mostly do-it-yourselfers, how they can do it, what the options are, let people kind of be inspired by the pictures and the different options for plants and hardscape, and then try to give them the nitty-gritty on how to get it done.
All right. Well, there's lots of inspiration in the book in the form of beautiful images, and again, very practical too, I think, in terms of here are the ideas, and get to it, basically.
Right,
you
right.
know.
I was trying to really give people the how-to so they could just get out there and do it. People who don't necessarily know how to garden already, people who are beginners, give them the information they need.
Okay, well, let's take them through some of the steps, the baby steps of getting this job done. What are the first things that people really need to think about?
Well, they need to think about how they want to use the space. Do they want to look out their window and have a pretty view? Do they want to be out there playing with their dog? Do they need space for the kids to play? Do they want to be out there entertaining in the evening, maybe a fire pit, something like that? And so you really want to just think through and let your mind just kind of be open to the possibilities of what your yard can be, as opposed to just the lawn desert, just a big space of lawn that's really not very inviting. So once you start thinking about those things, then you narrow it down to what will fit in the space. And I always tell people just to get a copy of their survey out and just start sketching ideas on the survey. And you can use transparent paper over that. Just sketch out various ideas and then try to narrow it down from there.
That's what all professionals do, really,
That's what we
right?
do too, that's right.
It's like,
yeah, you're just trying to get the ideas flowing and be open to things, and then really narrow it down to the things that you want the most.
Right. Well, thinking about the things you want most, and people often forget to put entertaining or the conversation areas and all those kinds of things. They don't associate it with the outdoors. To them, that's all indoor space. But you can create those rooms outside using some of the tips that you've recommended here, and you've illustrated as well. Yeah,
it's really important to think about those people spaces. When you just think about replacing it with plants, well, you can end up with the same kind of result as a lawn. If you're looking for something to cover the lawn, you can do a ground cover that may do the same thing. But really, if you want to get more out of your space, why not think of ways to invite yourself into the space, or invite your friends, and have some places to walk to, a destination, patio or something like that.
Sure. And you're not advocating completely eradicating all grass or grass-like plant
I'm
materials.
not a lawn hater. I always tell people, sometimes a lawn is the best use of a space when you need a space for your kids to play. If you like to go out there and throw the ball to your dog, a lawn is a great ground cover for that. It doesn't necessarily have to be your whole yard, though. It could be that you could pare it down to a very usable space in the center, maybe, or off to one side, and then you could fill the other parts of your yard with a patio space or some great plants. And there's just a lot of different options.
Well, let's take soft spaces and hard spaces and kind of divide them out. And in the soft spaces, you recommend some plants and strategies for lawn alternatives as well, right? Right.
Yeah. There's a world of plants out there, and you really need to do a little research on your region first to find out, before you just go to the nursery and start picking out plants willy-nilly. Make sure that the plants are suited to your hot and cold temperatures. And a lot of times, in this part of the country, you find that you might be in the range for the cold temperatures, but you got to really get a handle on whether your plants can take the heat. And there's a lot of good resources for people to find those things out. You go to your local independent nursery and talk to them and find out which plants perform the best. Read your local garden blogs, see what people are growing, see what's successful, and that'll give you a good start for the plants. And then, in the book I talked about all the different kind of plants. There's low-growing grassy plants, there's low-growing perennials, there's small shrubs. There's alternative lawns that are made up of a bunch of different kinds of native grasses.
Right,
So
sedges and things like that.
Yeah. So
Right.
there's just all kinds of great plant alternatives to explore.
All right, sticking with that idea of softer spaces,
Mm-hmm.
the utilization of things just instead of grass, you could also go with things just like mulch areas. For example, you have a lovely image of a hammock area in one garden.
That's right.
And obviously underneath that, mulch would perform exactly what you want it to do.
Yes, especially if you have a lot of trees. If you have a very wooded lot, mulch can be a great substitute. You know, the grass tends to grow thin under trees. It doesn't get enough light and it looks patchy. And I'll often have people call me up and say, "What can we do to replace this grass? It just won't grow into the trees." I'm like, don't try to grow the grass where it doesn't want to grow. I mean, that's a great way to just really start looking at areas where you can reduce your grass. Put in dry, loving ground covers under there. It could be like inland sea oats. It could be sedges, you know, things like that that want to grow into there. Or open up the space for a mulched patio under the trees.
Right.
That could be lovely.
A nice woodland kind of look. So all sorts of alternatives there. Now on the hardscape side of things, I always think of sitting areas and transit areas basically for hardscape.
Right.
It's like you're
Paths and
moving
patios.
through the garden or that are destinations in the garden to be.
Right.
You know.
People places.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you need to have, you know, if you're looking at ways to reduce your grass and things you don't want to water, and you can look at those patio spaces, you're never going to have to mow them. You're never going to have to water them.
Exactly, right.
So it's a great way to think about reducing the lawn. And then it also has the benefit of inviting you out into it. So where you find that you're, you know, tracking through the mud to get to the shed or to take the garbage cans out, you know, make that a nice gravel path, or put in a patio in a shady spot so you can go out and enjoy the garden, and then surround it with the plants that you love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have, what I love about what I've seen in the book, lots of specific suggestions for making those places interesting too. It's not just, you know, a gravel path, but you have different strategies for really providing great interest in texture and layering in those kinds of spaces.
Yeah, that's really where you can personalize your garden. There's an example of a path with different materials made up in it, like a patchwork path is what I call it. I mean, that's easy to do. You just kind of accumulate things over time, and maybe you got a collection of old tiles in one part of your yard and some old stone. You know, why not mix it up? And you can be very creative in what you do, and that adds personality to your garden. And so I do want to try to provide images like that to inspire people to think outside the box.
And water features too,
right.
Which can be the focal points of those hardscape areas.
Yeah, and it's funny because most people might not think about a water feature as something you want to put in when you're trying to reduce your water usage. You know, it's full of water, but
Right.
actually it can be, you can use as little, you know, less water than you would use to water your lawn if you have a simple water feature. If it doesn't have a big splashy fountain, because then you can lose water to evaporation, but have a small bubbler, you know, or have it be a still feature. Have it sited in some shade, and then you can reduce your water loss and still enjoy this beautiful small pond. And I tell people to kind of go with a geometric shape if you want to make it simple. Don't try to replicate nature, because that's actually really hard to make it look good.
Right, I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, but you go with a man-made shape. It could be like a cattle trough. Stock tank pond.
And I think they look awesome.
They look great.
And
It's raised up, easy to maintain.
Make it easy.
They do. There's no digging.
Right.
So that's a great solution. And but you could also do one in ground that's circular, and put a nice wide patio around it, and then you've got a beautiful space to enjoy. Maybe have some fish. Maybe have some water lilies.
Right. And real briefly, I know that the book also contains lots of good plant information, and it's not trying to be comprehensive, though.
No, and I do want to provide, you know, there's the kind of conceptual ideas in the front, different kinds of plants you might think to try. In the back of the book, there are 11 regions represented with regional experts, gardening experts from each of those regions picking plants that would do well in their area, so that it's good for people no matter where they live.
Well, I commend you on doing this, because it's important that we all be thinking about this.
And it's fun.
It's fun to convert the gardens using these ideas as well.
It is. You know, you can make it pretty simple, and then if you want to, you can mix it up with different kinds of plants, and you might find yourself addicted to it.
I'm sure that some of your readers will find it addictive.
Yeah.
Pam, it's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, welcome back to the program, and it's now time for our friend Daphne.